It's now 3:30 p.m. in Bangkok. We have audience from several countries. We have from Italy, India, of course, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and probably some other countries. I will start right now as by schedule because Her Excellency, the Ambassador, has limited time, and I thank in advance for her presence today. Just, I will start with a quick overlook. So first of all, thank you very much for joining our webinar session today. We have a special seminar with the Board of Investment Sri Lanka. As you know, Sri Lanka is an attractive and strategic location for investment, and we are glad to introduce this information to our network. We had the chance to meet with Board of Investment Sri Lankan representatives in Bangkok over a year ago during a trade show. And after that, we had the idea to organize something together in this situation. As many of you will know, Sri Lanka is famously renowned for its tourism, tea and spices, textile, manufacturing, amazing jewelry and sapphires, and many other things. This webinar will be the first step with the aim of a long-term goal of eventually organizing a business mission with a delegation to Sri Lanka, either way starting from Thailand or our colleagues in India and from Italy. We started this collaboration in September 2019, promoting Sri Lanka as an investment destination. And we would like to thank the Board of Investment of Sri Lanka, the Director General, Mr. Sanjaya Mohottala, and Ms. Nilupul de Silva for their efforts and interest in cooperating on our chamber, TICC. Following the agenda very briefly, in our schedule, we will start with a welcome address of Her Excellency, Mr. Rita Mannella, Ambassador of Italy in Colombo, followed by the speech of Mr. Cesare Saccani, President of the Indo-Italian Chamber of Commerce in an industry in India. And the main presentation will be delivered by Director General of BOI, Mr. Mohottala, as I mentioned. After this, we will have a Q&A session. So again, once again, if you have any idea, any request, please feel free to drop it in the chat. My team and I will manage this. And now, with no much further ado, I would like to give our virtual stage to Her Excellency Rita Mannella, Ambassador of Italy in Sri Lanka.
Thank you very much for organizing this event, especially to the Indo-Italian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Saccani and Mr. Maffoletti specifically, and to the Thai-Italian Chamber of Commerce. I would like also to thank Director General Mohottala of BOI for his time today. I think this is really a very important initiative that we have been trying to organize since a long time. I've been here for 1.5 years, and since that period, I've been trying to promote Italian investments in this island, not only because I like this island so much, but also because I think there is a lot of potential for Italian entrepreneurs. So let me give you a couple of ideas on what is my experience and what are the areas where we can be mutually beneficial, Italians and Sri Lankan. Sri Lanka has high expectations of positioning itself as a center for trade and investment in the South Asia region. And in particular, it is very important, it's a strategic geographical position, which according to the government is trying to transform the country in an international hub of reference focusing in particular on economic expansion policies at commercial, textile, naval, maritime, air, energy, and knowledge level. Those are the priority of the president, which have been explained even recently in a meeting we had with all the European ambassadors. As a country for investment, one of the biggest assets is the free trade, the conclusion of free trade agreements with many other countries, specifically with India, with Pakistan, with Singapore, which will give access to other 21 markets, with Thailand, and possibly, probably in the future with China. Which means that Sri Lanka could represent a very important gateway for investment in this whole region, and which could be very useful for Italian entrepreneurs because they can have free access for many of their products, if produced in Sri Lanka, to these markets, which is like which has a potential of more than 1 billion of inhabitants. So quite important. In the same note, we can also register that Sri Lanka has a GSP Plus agreement with European Union and also with the United States, which can be very helpful in order to export. Still on commercial aspects, according to the data of the Central Bank and the Sri Lanka Customs, in 2019, between Italy and Sri Lanka, the trade amounted to 749.2 million. Despite the drastic reduction of imports due to the previous year because of the terrorist attack, and now to the COVID, still there has been an increase in trade of 2% of Italian imports here. It is my strong ambition to see a greater number of Italians here, because I know there are many areas of opportunity for our products, and I know that our firms are considered very highly from Italian Sri Lankan entrepreneurs. In particular, and I repeat, according to the priority scale given by the President Rajapaksa few days ago, the priority areas would be in the pharmaceutical area, in which there is an intention of creating a free trade area to encourage on-site production, also with the aim of exporting in the region. Smart apparel, clothing with a strong added value component, which are already very very famous for Italians. You know that Intimissimi here has 7 firms with 15,000 workers, and a huge investment since like 20 years, even more. But there is space for many other investors because of the skill of the manpower, the situation, and also, and I have to say, also for the respect of human rights, which in this moment are very important also for many Italian brands, which don't want to invest in countries where there is no respect or child labor. So this is also a very important aspect for me. Then we have a third field, which is information and communication technology. Do you still see me? And do you listen? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Can I
Really
continue?
well.
So information and communication technology, agriculture, to modernize the sector with technology, and in the same field, food processing and packaging, which is very important because the loss of production is very high, like 40%, according to some of the estimates. So 40% of the food production is lost during the simple process of gathering and distribution. Strengthening the export-led sectors, taking advantage of the preferential schemes, GSP and US GSP, and the free trade agreements, which we have already mentioned, health and medical devices, education and training, irrigation and aqueducts, power, tourism, and hospitality. Those are areas in which Italy represents a very, has a lot of excellence, and so I think it could be very useful for us to encourage Italian entrepreneurs who are not well acquainted to this reality to at least to have a look to the possible opportunities. Of course, as the embassy, we wish to help to create opportunities, both in trade and investment, and also to try and diversify the sector of interest. To this end, we are trying to create a series of events, virtual and also in physical, when the situation will permit. And I can mention a couple of examples. Introduction and B2B meetings in the textile sector with the Italian Association of Textile Machinery, ACIMIT, as well as with the Italian Association of Textile, Chemical and Coloring, ICCI. This has been explicitly requested by the Sri Lankan working in these fields, who are quite aware of the fact if they want to differentiate their production and do a quantum leap, they should use different kind of machinery, and Italian machineries, Italian textile machineries are considered among the best. So there is an interest, we represent an interest of the Sri Lankan entrepreneurs in this field. Then promotion, always through country presentation and B2B of technology and machineries related to energy sector, and as well as industrial automation, naval manufacturing and agricultural sector, and food and beverage sector, which is also of great interest. And we are trying to continue to promote Italian companies wanting to enter in this market. In particular, not only for domestic purpose, but for the touristic sector. The country is well aware that in order to promote the touristic sector, they need to differentiate much more the food and beverage offer they can provide. And Italian food is it's quite famous, but not well distributed here. So there could be some good potential. I hope that this can be a good starting point for Italian companies already operating in the region. And as I used to say, just the last aspect of what I would like to say, keep in mind that in this country, there is not too much competition because some of this Italian excellence are not produced here. While in other countries like India, for instance, there are a lot of competitors. Here, the country is focusing on the products which are natural for them. So they will not work on other issues which are not very familiar so far. So it could be very useful to come, to experience, to have a look, to try to invest in this country, because there is a lot of potential according to our experience at the embassy. One more issue, stability. I think this government is very serious. They are trying to promote the country. They are trying to do a lot of reforms in order to make the country a regional hub. And this is it. It is also a very important aspect that I should underline. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope that this will be one of the first of many other conversation on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. It was a very, very insightful address to start this webinar that reunite 4 countries and several professionals in several countries. Now I would like to leave the stage to Mr. Cesare Saccani, President of the Indo-Italian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And please, Cesare, you have our virtual stage.
Thank you very much, Michele. I really appreciate this event because it's a proof that the times are changing, and we are now discussing about opportunities of investment to Sri Lanka, people from Italy, Thailand, India, Sri Lanka, and maybe some other countries. And this is the direction in which we are moving, the digitalization of the service. We are moving in this direction. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
It's also a pleasure to organize this event with another Italian Chamber of Commerce in Asia, because we are trying to collaborate and to strengthen the collaboration among Italian Chamber of Commerce in different countries in Asia, and this is another proof. And above all, I want to say that thanks to Ambassador Rita Mannella, we've been starting a discussion along with the embassy last year in February to how to support Italian companies interested to invest to Thailand. And why the Indo-Italian Chamber of Commerce is involved in this? Because we are, of course, nearby, the country are very close. And secondly, the Indo-Italian Chamber of Commerce, in few words, means 54 years of experience. We have been established in 1966. We have now 1,100 members approximately in all sectors, and out of them we have 600 Italian companies, most of them with a manufacturing plant in India. So for us it is a platform very comfortable, also because we have a network of 5 offices. The headquarters is in Mumbai, but we have offices in Delhi, Calcutta, Chennai, Bangalore. This means that when we started a discussion last year with the ambassador, we tried to figure out how to open a new regional office from India to Sri Lanka. And now most of the issues have been resolved, and we are ready to support the incubation of a future, maybe Italo-Sri Lankan Chamber of Commerce, so let's see. But the incubation process could be supported by the Indo-Italian Chamber of Commerce. As far as concern the activities and also the sector mentioned by the ambassador, Mannella, I would say that from India, we already have a platform ready to operate in few sectors. For instance, we've been talking about industrial machinery, and we have a desk in our chamber of UCIMU, which is the Italian Association of Manufacturers of Machinery for Production, and we promote regularly the export of our industries in India in different sectors within the Made in India program. Second sector mentioned by Ambassador Mannella is agricultural machinery. We have the desk in our chamber of Federuna Coma. We have already organized several events in the last 5 years, events and projects, and there are already set up in India several Italian companies, Maschio d'Aspardo, Carraro, Same, New Holland, so they can serve the Sri Lanka market quite easily, and for us is also quite easy to support any promotional activity from India to Sri Lanka. Third sector, food and beverage. We have India is included in the program through Italian Test, and we are organizing a lot of events to promote the food and beverage. Again, we can extend easily to India. Also, other sectors may not be mentioned yet, but for instance, education. In India, we have a setup of a Minerva project. Minerva is a center, an umbrella to promote the Italian excellencies in education, postgraduate and vocational training. We have a center in Mumbai, and we promote now, I would say, most online training courses provided by the best Italian universities and vocational training. Again, particularly in the digital world, we can accept and promote these courses also to Sri Lankan students. Last but not least, apart of promoting joint business between India and Italy, we also have set up a solution to manage the crisis. Sometimes in joint venture there are crises or in commercial relationship, and we decided to set up last year ad idem, which is a bilateral mediation and arbitration center, in order to manage the bilateral issues and disputes between Italian and Indian companies. Again, this could be easily opened to Sri Lankan companies, and could be, since it is recognized that this dispute resolution chamber has been designed according to the most important international rule for arbitration, as well as the Italian and Indian rules, this could be a good platform also to facilitate the way out from the market in case of need. So the Chamber of Commerce, the Indo-Italian Chamber of Commerce, means a wide range of services. I want also to mention the Italian languages course that for us could be the first step to create and to facilitate the bilateral relationship. Most of these courses are online, and again, opening the door to Sri Lankan companies, managers, or students is very easy for us. So we are ready to support any development or any interest to develop a business from Italy, between Italy and Sri Lanka, throughout our platform from India. Thank you very much, and I'm here for answer. Me and Claudio Maffioletti, our General Secretary, we are both here to answer to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cesare. Now I would like to invite the Director General of BOI for the main presentation of today, so about investment opportunities into Sri Lanka. Mr. Mohottala, please, you are mostly welcome to share a presentation, and anytime you can start.
Sure. Thanks, Michael, for the kind introduction, and the Italian Chamber for organizing this event. I would say, Ambassador Mannella, meaning Sri Lankan citizenship pervades you. I think you job in position in Sri Lanka than I could do. And thank you for those kind words. And Ms. Cesare, thank you for extending your warm welcome to help Sri Lankan businesses or Italian businesses to come to Sri Lanka. And as you know, there's quite a few Italian businesses who have invested in Sri Lanka and looking at expanding. And with both Ambassador Mannella and Deputy Ambassador Allegra, we've been helping some of the investors to return to Sri Lanka during the COVID period and continue with their production in Sri Lanka. So I think most of the points around some investment opportunities, Madam Ambassador covered, but maybe I'll just give you a little bit of a gist of meaning why Sri Lanka is land of ingenuity, or how to say, a best kept secret in this part of the world, and we are kind of awakening and really looking towards getting your help to develop our country as well as to establish your businesses. In a nutshell, what we are, so we have, meaning BOI has been in existence for the last 40 years, facilitating many companies to come and make Sri Lanka their production base. And we are very well known for our tea, apparels, and our beaches and travel and leisure. Over the last 4 or 5 years, we have got close to about $7 billion worth of, this is fresh FDI. And in addition, I think equal amount or close amount of expansion of existing companies have happened. We are home to many Fortune 500 companies, some of the large industrial hubs where we are the #1 in terms of solid tire manufacturing in the world, and with multiple sectors that's really taking the prominence as we go ahead. So let me just run through a couple of slides to give a little bit of flavor about like what uniquely Sri Lanka offers to you, and then we can talk about the skills that the Madam Ambassador talked about. I think one of the best kept secrets of Sri Lanka is, I would say, our talent pool. And this is part to our free education policies that we had for the last 50, 60 years. We have 15 state universities. Some of them are recognized very well across the region and in terms of the global rankings. We have, in addition, 19 higher education institutes, which produces close to 30,000 undergrads. And one of the policies that even the ambassador mentioned, the president has mandated that any graduate that comes out of university will be IT literate. So this then dovetails into one of our key thrusts around ICT, which I will touch you much later. Secondly, our tertiary education or vocational training puts out close to 100,000 trainees every year, and quite a few of them retain in Sri Lanka, also travel quite outside from here to Middle East, Asia, for their activities. In addition, given that we have one of the highest literacy rates in South Asia, and English being one of the languages taught in school, it's one of the countries that your businesses would be much easier to operate in, given the language skill, given the mathematical and education skill, and also the skill training that the country promotes holistically. I would not spend too much time here. I think Madam Ambassador also talked about in terms of ease of doing business. You would expect some of these rankings to improve rapidly in the next 3-4 years on the back of the policy decisions that the president and the government is driving on two parts. One is the stable government coming into hopefully after the election, and also the key economic thrust that comes into play. So one thing to note is Sri Lanka is going through that transition period most of the countries go through, around $4,000 GDP per capita to about $6,000. That is where you see the inflection growth that comes in, driving demand for higher value-added economic activity sectors, and also for the consumption side, where the Italian businesses could benefit on both part of it. I'll come to that later. So along with that, we will expect the ease of doing business to improve. In terms of the competitiveness, meaning this is just one way of looking at it. If you look at the manufacturing cost for labor hours, we are one of the cheaper ones. But I think, yes, we are perhaps a little higher than Bangladesh, perhaps much lower than India. But I think what matters is the labor productivity, which we haven't taken into account here. I think the productivity adjusted labor cost point of view, Sri Lanka probably ranks much higher. That's one of the reasons why on the high end of the apparel and most of the apparel companies still remain in Sri Lanka. when there's stiff competition from countries like Bangladesh and China, where the labor cost or the productivities could be much different. So still, in terms of depending on the type of activity you do, and especially for high value added, complex kind of nature products, this is a destination to be. To give an example, during the Corona period, I think Vario System and a few other European companies who are focused in manufacturing life-saving ventilators and other medical equipment. Most of their high value-added component design and manufacturing is done in Sri Lanka and exclusively done in Sri Lanka. And during the COVID period, we facilitated those companies to continue operations. And that shows you the competitiveness and the ingenuity that our country possesses when it comes to those high value-added products. In terms of the bilateral and multilateral trade treaties, our largest export nation or the region is Europe, the second largest. And we do have GSP plus, as Madam Ambassador talked about. And given our growth in trajectory that what we see, we would continue our GSP plus for some time. And in addition, we are looking at negotiating a bilateral trade treaty going forward with both Europe, China, US, and Japan. So there's multiple of these coming into effect in the future. But I think one of the advantage of Sri Lanka in geographically in South Asia is we are perhaps only country that could trade freely with India, Pakistan, Bangladesh combined. And also if you look at Malaysia, Singapore, and so on and so forth. So if you think about the ecosystem that we can serve within a 4-hour radius, we are looking at addressing close to about 2 billion population. And as you rightly know, that this is a population that is growing fastest in terms of per capita income. So we call it medium affluent consumers, which is emerging quite rapidly, both in Sri Lanka, India, and through Bangladesh, where the consumption patterns changes, drives up demand for a lot of Italian products and quality Italian products. One attractive reason to invest in Sri Lanka is our tax rates. Now, this is for any size of investment. So typically when you are an export-oriented company, you do get a concessionary tax rate of 14%, whereas the standard rates are around 24%. In addition, if the investments are of strategic nature to the country, so we have a special act called the SDP, or Strategic Development Projects. So for those, the companies could be entitled for 5, 10, 15-year tax holidays, depending on the size of the investment and the type of activity that brings in. So if it is a game-changing in terms of industry vertical or developing a new sector, so those companies would qualify for that. In addition, I think there are certain sectors which are completely tax-free. So one is around agro farming and agro processing, information technology, and also export services, or we call it the hub services, and multi-country consolidation, so on and so forth. And we are a country, we have strict intellectual property regime. We are guaranteeing our safety and security for the R&D. So that's one of the reasons why most of the companies have looked at using our educated talent pool from our universities and push towards those kind of value-added activities around R&D and so on and so forth. Just to let you know, one example is that HCL, one of the largest IT service providers in India, based of $9 billion worth of revenue, they decided to make Sri Lanka one of the pit stops and started the operation with about 500 people. Even before they started the operations, they have come to us and said they will expand it to close to 2,000 people over 18 months and to commit to the country and house about 5,000 people over the next 3 to 5 years. So that tells you the kind of attractiveness that the country possesses across a couple of industries. The quality of life, I'm sure most of you would have visited Sri Lanka for the holidays and enjoyed the hospitality that our country offers, and also the pristine beaches or the hill country that the country offers. So of course, becoming one of the most livable places. It is one of the most peaceful places to live in since the end of our civil war. But yes, 2019 was a little bit of a blip in that unblemished record, but we hope to continue that the peaceful atmosphere going forward. All right. And I think the other part of it is there is a big emphasis on the infrastructure development. As you know, that we have two major seaports, Colombo and Hambantota, which is Colombo being one of the top 25 seaports, and is in the process of expanding their container handling capabilities. We have 3 international airports with a few other regional airports being under development. Our express and the roadway, both the road and rail, are being earmarked for development of the next 5 years. Most of the country or most of the industrial hubs will be connected via expressway, so which enables companies to set their factories moving away from the cities, tapping into the college talent pool at a lower price, but also being able to have that link with the ports much more frequently. So 13 export processing zones right now, but we are also looking at building at least 3 to 4 in the next 2 to 3 years, focusing on specific targeted sectors. This is more around the connectivity, of course, Sri Lanka being at the center of Northeast shipping line. We have major connectivity in terms of direct connectivity to major the ports. In addition, of course, the air connectivity in terms of wherever in the globe that you want to fly into. Through Dubai and Singapore hubs, you can connect to whichever part of the world that you need. Then if I think about, maybe I'll spend a little bit of time here and talk about some of the industry opportunities that the Italian businesses could take advantage of. One, maybe I'll jump first, will be the pharmaceuticals. Now, especially Italy being one of these pharma producers in Europe, and multiple Italian companies would be hopefully interested in setting their base in Sri Lanka in 2 ways. The reason being that we're also looking at building a purpose-built 400-acre state-of-the-art zone, which will be designed by an existing renowned pharmaceutical zone designer, where we will provide all the required environmental clearances and approvals pre-approved. So that means whether it is a simple paracetamol you produce, or whether it is oncology drug, whether it is or API. So we will have a EIA clearance from end to end, so which you can come and set up your companies right away with a sea outfall. So that provides you a complete enclave in terms of building your business. In addition, given that the strategic nature of this project, the whole zone will be considered as a strategic investment. Thereby, the companies will get tax breaks depending on their investment size coming into the country. So that's one of the major thrusts that we're looking at, and we're looking to build a $1 billion industry vertical in the next 5 to 6 years. And we have already got some interest from European pharmaceutical companies, and of course the Chinese companies as well. They're looking to come down and have some discussions even before we break ground, which we are looking to break ground Q1 next year, so the companies can start construction in parallel as we build infrastructure in a period of 12 months. The second part of it is the fabric manufacturing. Now, Sri Lanka has been renowned for their fabric exports, though we have pretty much reliant on international imports when it comes to the fabrics, yarn, and a few other things. With the aim of extracting that value addition that's done in Sri Lanka, and also with the umbrella of ethical apparel manufacturing and sourcing, we are looking to build a purpose-built fabric park in Erawur, which is on the east side of the country. Again, state-of-the-art with all the best environmental credentials will be enforced in the zone. Water recycling, green energy, and so on and so forth. Again, with the sea outfall, and of course, it will be the strictest of the environmental condition has to be maintained, because a few miles down the line, we have the only stationary pod of blue whales in the world in our ocean. So we have to make sure that we maintain that. So that's something, again, we are looking to break ground in first quarter 2021. The environment studies are on the way, so it will be completed in 3 months. and the zone will be gazetted and the land allocation will happen. We already have 5 to 6 investors who have committed in the first wave of development. So any Italian manufacturers who are looking to localize or regionalize some of the fabric manufacturing are most welcome to come and play a role. The second part of it is on the auto components. This is a wide segment. If you start from the low end of point of view in terms of tires, we have close to around 30-40% of the solid off-road tire market being housed to 3 or 4 or maybe 4 or 5 of the largest 6 or 7 manufacturers in the country, and many of them are looking to expand their footprint. The largest of them being Michelin, spending or investing over $1.4 billion in Sri Lanka and creating this as their main sourcing location in this world. So there is a concerted effort around increasing rubber production and the yield in the country, so which you will see almost doubling our current rubber production in the next 3-4 years. That will enable the current vertical of about close to about $1 billion worth of rubber exports, not just tires, gloves, and everything, to be able to double in the next 5 years coming forward. And in addition, you have a lot of those vehicle components being manufactured, whether it's wire harnesses or whether it is electric components. So there is a vibrant auto ecosystem that also plays in play. If you look at like some of the tire companies and of course the European manufacturers, that should be something that we could take advantage of. In IT, BPM is one of our major thrusts, especially being knowledge-based economy, and especially the number of graduates that we are putting out in this segment. We are looking to build this sector from 1.2 to 3 to 4 billion. Given the commitments we have from the firms similar to HCL and others, I think this is a clear path. So I think we are encouraging most of the European IT companies also to come and make Sri Lanka a destination in terms of the opportunity and take advantage of the opportunities that we can offer. In addition, I would say the food processing, and Madam Ambassador talked about the wastage that we have. And I think in addition, there's a whole effort being put in to being self-reliant in terms of agriculture in Sri Lanka. And the quality of the raw material or the input and the abundance of farmland that we can utilize. This will be a sector that we'll be looking to promote in the coming years. And I think given the finest foods that you all are known for, it might be definitely an interesting area for you all to capitalize on. So maybe I'll just pause here and leave some time for Q&A. Given these are some of the verticals and opportunities that I mentioned, which are top of the mind and priority, and I thought sits in well with the audience, which is now. But beyond that, we have definitely with the port city coming up, which is about a $40 billion worth of infrastructure development. With the tourism push moving from 2.5 million to 5-6 million tourist visitors arrival, there's going to be multiple resort development opportunities that come through. So beyond what I've talked about, so if there's anything, we're happy to have a continued discussion and to see how we could facilitate you all. But given what Sri Lanka can offer, we are inviting all of you with open arms to come and consider Sri Lanka to be your next investment destination.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Director General. So now we open the Q&A session, and for anyone interested, you can drop your request in the chat. Or if you have a video open, you can raise your hand and we'll try to catch you. Mr. Mohottala, I would like to ask, of course, several countries are promoting investment, and mostly in a technical part, I would like to ask, for foreign companies to invest in Sri Lanka with a manufacturing plant, is there a minimum investment in terms of budget request? And for the foreigners personnel in leading the factory, is BOI allowing some facilitation in terms of work permit or visa extension?
No, absolutely. I think, Michael, it's a good question. There's no restriction in ownership, and I think within the POI purview, if there's any restriction in the country, we can grant an exception. So you can have 100% ownership in Sri Lanka. So that's very clear. In terms of the certain sectors, we do have a investment threshold. Those are not typically high, but they are set in line with what a minimum investment that is required for each of the sectors. And it is not a standard for across all the industries. By each vertical, you have a threshold. Most of the time, the investments are multiple of those thresholds. So this is just to let you know the minimum amount of foreign direct investments you need to come in, because you can always have a local partner if you choose to. And also you could look at debt equity ratio in terms of financing. In terms of the visas, yes, we do provide and facilitate visas for the senior management and for specific skilled individuals you need. And even if you need people to, how do I say, commence a factory or install a factory, we do provide that. I know that one of the Italian factories which got burned down in Katunayaka, there were about 45 Italians who were here at just the beginning of the corona, and they were rebuilding the factory. Yes, there's no restrictions in that. We will facilitate that gladly.
Thank you.
I also have a question.
Yes, please, Cesare.
As far as concern infrastructure, what is, in your opinion, the weight assigned to sustainability of infrastructure in developing a project in Sri Lanka? So there are a lot of efforts all over the world to increase the sustainability of infrastructure projects. And I would like to know what is the approach and how relevant it is for Sri Lankan authorities to raise these requirements to their projects.
Mr. Khan, I think that's a very good question. Look, I think being a small island and also tourism being center of it, I mean, we have always put quite a bit of focus on sustainability. And I think taking that to a next level, one of the two things that the government has promised and the president has promised is to say by 2030, I think up to 60 to 70% of incremental addition that's going to come through has to come from renewable energy. So in terms of creating a cleaner footprint in terms of the energy infrastructure, we are not a large producer of coal power. We do have about 900 megawatts. We have 45% of our power coming from hydro, so which is environmentally friendly. Then if you look at the pipeline of project that's there is on the wind, both on solar side and also using natural gas, we'll have much more sustainable power sources that's coming in. And the second part of it is like if you take all of our zones, we have state-of-the-art wastewater management solutions being put in. So these are central wastewater treatment plants. So, and they are being released back into streams where downstream we tap in for drinking. So the quality of the water that we put out has to be of the highest quality. Even on the pharma and the apparel zones that we have been built, so there would be adhere to the zero discharge. So in fabric park, mostly the discharge will be the salinity in the water. So that's why it will be put out to the sea outfall. Beyond organic matter, we would remove everything else. So in terms of sustainability, we put a high emphasis on that. And also in terms of the companies who bring into the country, we are very selective in terms of giving approval for any company that is environmentally polluting. Some of them are needed, right? So if you need to build a a caustic soda plant or a hydrochloric acid plant or a sulfuric plant, you need to have those because they are the backbone of industries. But still, they have to be maintained. They have to maintain the stringence of the environmental standards when you build those factories. So we work very closely with the CEA, the Marine Environment Authority, and so forth to ensure the factories that will be built adhere to the code and also run according to the code.
Okay, thank you. We have another, let's say, group of questions from the same attendee. I will read it together. I hope you can hear me well, and it's a bit technical. So the first one is, which is the best export processing free zone within Sri Lanka? Related to this, are garment factories for export allowed for investment within Sri Lankan investors? And the same person is asking, can we shift our garment machines investment from Jebel Ali free zone to Sri Lanka and get some financing on it?
On the first one, I think it depends on which sector you want to talk about. I think the zones have typical demarcation in terms of some of the zones are good for apparel because of the talent pool and the location of which it is. So then it would be Katunayaka, Biyagama would be such. So Biyagama Sitawaka could be zones for more rubber-based, or where you have to do affluent and water-based. So there are zones which are more suitable for agriculture. Then the ones in the south with sea outfalls are better for chemical or processing sort of things. So we can definitely give you a little bit more specific guidance when we know which industry. I think if you talk about apparel, I think apparel can be in any location, given the accessibility to the talent pool and also being able to move around. Unless you're looking at dyeing and the kind of the weaving kind of those activities, then they have to be in specific zones which are designated with capabilities. The second question, I missed it out, but I didn't understand fully. On the last one, in terms of bringing the equipment from your Jebel Ali free zone, that's something that we will enable. In terms of the financing point of view, that's something that you could arrange with the bank. Sorry?
No, it was, sorry, it was an attendee that opened the microphone. It was related to basically if garment factories for export allowed for investment within Sri Lankan investor. So if you have a Sri Lanka partner,
you can have a Sri Lankan partner if you choose to. If you don't want to have a Sri Lankan partner, you can have your 100% ownership as well. There's no restriction, Mikhail.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's the slight difference is like versus India or China, where we are not forcing you all to have a local partner. It's your choice if you decide to do so. And also for the financing, yes, the equipment and the plant and machinery can be mortgaged at any point. But if you need to mortgage the land that we get from us, land rights, you need to then have commercial operations to do so.
And, Mr. Mohottala, related to this point, because you mentioned machineries, if you have foreign investors with a new factory plant, by purchasing and bringing to Sri Lanka machineries, can the cost of the machineries can be considered part of the investment, or you benefit of some tax holidays by purchasing machineries to bring into the Sri Lanka?
No, I think that was a good question. Firstly, all your capital goods are tax-free, and your raw materials are tax-free. So, and you can bring in and export. There's no export taxes either. So it's completely tax-free import exports for raw material, and your capital equipment are tax-free as well. And yes, capital equipment is considered as part of your investment that you bring in, including your working capital as well. So that is considered in the total package.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Michele, can I ask a further question on this point? This is Claudio from the Indo Pacific Chamber of Commerce. With regards to tax-free for machinery and equipment, does it mean that there is no import duty also on machinery imported, for instance, from Italy in our case?
Yeah, absolutely, Claudio. There's no import duty.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And also, if you need, you can have accelerated depreciation on your assets as well. even in situations where if you don't have the tax breaks, you can actually end up using accelerated depreciation as a means of netting your profits in the initial years.
Sure, sure. Thank you. Thank you for the answer.
We have several questions now, and I will try to be brief because we are almost ending our hour. But anyhow, one of the participants from Galaxy Machinery India is asking, does Sri Lanka have any CNC machinery manufacturers? What is the annual CNC machine consumption in Sri Lanka? How big is the CNC user market in Sri Lanka? Who can be contact person who can furnish these details? Perhaps this one is a group of very detailed questions, but probably we can share also the contact of BOI Sri Lanka because they're very detailed. Anyhow, Mr. Mohottala, if you want to say something about the CNC machinery terms, mill terms, if you have any.
Unfortunately, not Mikhail. I know most of the information, but not this one. But happy to connect with someone in our team to get the details required for Mr. Rango.
It is very specific, so I will invite Galaxy Machinery. You can drop us an email. We will share also all the details of the presentation and the participant to Mr. Elango, so you can address directly to the officer that today kindly connect with us from Colombo. And if there is any other request. But anyhow, this webinar is recorded. We will publish the webinar on YouTube to allow also the participant and other people interested in listening to the presentation. And may I have a confirmation to Mr. Mohottala, if possibly your presentation can be shared among all the participants today?
Yes, we will share the extracts from that with everyone.
Okay, very well. We will send it also to our colleagues in India, to Mr. Claudio and Mr. Cesare, and of course they will deliver among their participants the presentation.
Yeah, and I would look forward to inviting all of you once the COVID situation dies down to come and visit Sri Lanka and explore. And of course, there's many of your countrymen who have made Sri Lanka their manufacturing chosen manufacturing location, and to engage with them and discuss with them and see how BOI has facilitated them, and as well as how they have built their businesses here, and get a sense of what opportunities this marvelous land provides. And hopefully your next investment consideration, Sri Lanka ranks high, and hopefully we can get the investments down to Sri Lanka as well.
Okay, very, very well. At the moment, I don't have further questions in the chat. Perhaps we can wrap up the webinar. And as I said, we will share the presentation very soon and the record of this webinar. In the meantime, of course, I would like to ask, sorry, there is one more question just popping up now from FE India, OEM contract manufacturing company. We are looking forward to connect with Sri Lankan companies to joint venture. Whom to connect for that? I believe that for finding a joint venture in Sri Lanka, I believe that BOI Sri Lanka is the best contact, right?
Yes, we could happily facilitate that, Mikhail.
And I believe also for a list of importers from Sri Lanka and business matching, of course, BOI Sri Lanka, you do this type of cooperation.
Indeed, happy to facilitate that, Ms. Sanshu. And yes, we will put one of our team's email ID so that you can contact directly.
Okay, very, very well. Now we reach the hour of webinar. As I mentioned, we will share the presentation with all participants today and to our office in India. I would like to thank the Board of Investment for asking us to organize this event that actually is touching not only Thailand and Sri Lanka, but also our office in India and Italian professionals from Italy right now. I would like to extend my thanks and greetings to Her Excellency Miss Rita Mannella, connected to us from Colombo, and the President of the Indo-Italian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Cesare Saccani, and Executive Director, Mr. Claudio Maffioletti. So thank you, everyone, and we will keep in touch with sharing information and video very soon.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope to see you soon.